A woman, we'll call her Vicki, had an encounter with a dogman in April of 2016. But the trouble actually started a few days before the main event. She and her husband Todd had lived a completely normal life in their current house for about a year. Now, their location is pretty rural, but they do have a few neighbors within shouting distance. They have 33 acres of mixed forests and fields with lots of thick brush. Life was pretty idyllic until that week. This particular week starts with their cat, an indoor cat, accidentally getting out and disappearing without a trace. The cat has escaped before, but it usually sticks around the house until they find it. On Tuesday night, Todd is outside in the yard when he notices that everything is silent. Totally creeps him out. But that's the extent of it. Wednesday, however, is a different story. Todd takes their dog up into the woods to look for the cat and just feels very anxious and uneasy. The dog keeps tucking its tail, turning around, wanting to go home. And it's not like their dog or him to feel uneasy in the woods. They love the outdoors and nature and usually feel right at home. On Thursday, around sunset, Todd again takes the dog around to the back lot where the yard meets a big wooded hill, when suddenly something takes off from the thickets at a sprint from the top of the hill and comes crashing through the woods down the hill straight towards him. He always carries a sidearm when he's out and is normally not afraid of anything. But this time, whatever this thing is, it's big. And he actually turns around and runs back toward the house, terrified. When Todd gets back to the house, he stops and looks back to see what it is that's coming. But whatever is charging stops right after he stops, still within the tree line, and doesn't make another sound. After waiting for a few minutes for the animal to show itself and feeling a little wimpy for running, he gives up and goes inside. He tells Vicki what's just happened and says, "I know what big game sounds like, and whatever that thing is, something about it is just not right." The following day is when her encounter happens. It's nearly dark, and Vicki's just coming home from visiting her parents. She has their 2 young kids with her. One is 2 and one is 11 months in the Jeep when she pulls in the driveway. Todd is working late, so it's just her and the kids. As soon as Vicki gets out of the Jeep, she feels creeped out. It feels different outside. There are usually lots of frogs and crickets making lots of noise, and even the birds usually chirp until an hour or more past dark. But tonight, there is no sound. It's a really warm evening, so the frogs should be in full chorus, but they're not. Now, usually, Vicki would get the 2-year-old out of the car and into the house before going back for the baby because it's really hard to carry both of them at the same time. But tonight, something is telling her not to do that. She needs to get both kids in the house as quickly as possible. With her keys in her hand, Vicki grabs both kids, one in each arm, and carries them both towards the front of the house. She reaches the front porch, climbs the steps, and sets the 2-year-old down so she can have a free hand to open the front door. As soon as she turns her attention back to the front door, it happens. Somewhere to her left comes a sound that will forever be seared into her memory. It starts low and slowly increases to a moderately low growl. It is deep-toned, very guttural, and sounds really pissed. Vicki is familiar with the different sounds of the animals that live around their home, and to her, this growl sounds canine and continues for what feels like an eternity, but in reality, it's probably only about 10 seconds. She is so terrified that her hands start shaking, and she's fumbling with her keys and can't unlock the front door. She feels like she's in some 80s horror movie and is sure that the growling creature is going to attack her and her kids at any second. The porch they're on goes on about 5 feet to the left, where it then drops off to about 100 feet of grass to a shed and then the edge of the tree line. The growl sounds like it's coming from just off to her left, just off the edge of that porch. But she cannot bring herself to look out of fear at what she might see. The growling sounds so close and either at or maybe even above her eye level. Standing on the front porch, from her head to the ground is approximately 9 feet. The sound is not human, and it seems to be amped up or mic'd up because it seems so powerful. It's not a loud growl, but it seems unnatural. Trying to control a level of fear that she has never known, Vicki is still desperately trying to get the key in the front door when the growling starts to change. To her ever-growing horror, the canine quality starts to seemingly melt into gruff, reverberating, audible words. What she hears as clear as day is, "You can't get in," in a mocking tone, making her feel like prey, making her entire body freeze, and making her hands drop her keys. After a moment of suspended animation, Vicki fires back into action, grabbing her keys, jamming the key into the door, and opening the door to the house. She pushes her daughter, who seems thankfully oblivious to what's going on, through the door, rushes in behind her carrying her son, slams the door, and does not look outside again. Vicki spends the next few minutes calming down before calling Todd to let him know what's happened. She then spends the next few days trying to absorb what has happened. Unlike Todd, who has listened to every episode of Dogman Encounters Radio, Vicki had never been a believer. And even though she never actually saw what terrorized her because she just couldn't look, she believes now, and it has changed her entire world.